The seduction of pleasure. Huxley's warning. Huxley once warned that men would not be destroyed by tyranny, but by indulgence. Not by the iron fist of dictators, but by the velvet touch of pleasure. And if you look around, his prophecy has already unfolded. You can see it in the glazed eyes of men scrolling endlessly through glowing screens, in the slouched bodies that worship fast food, pornography, and cheap entertainment. The modern man is not conquered by an enemy outside himself. He has surrendered to the one inside. He willingly kneels to the God of comfort, offering his discipline as sacrifice, and in return, he receives nothing but emptiness, disguised as enjoyment. Think of the warriors of old, the Spartans, the samurai, the crusaders. They were forged in hardship. Their strength was not born in pleasure, but in restraint. They had appetites, just like any man, but those appetites were controlled, harnessed, and transmuted into purpose. Compare that to today's man, a creature bred not for resilience, but for convenience. He wakes not to conquer, but to consume. And every bite of processed sugar, every hour wasted on trivial desire, every indulgence without limit, robs him of his edge. Pleasure, when unchecked, is a thief, quiet and merciless. It robs men of their fire without them even realizing they have been robbed. What makes pleasure so dangerous is not the instant high, but the dull decay that follows. The man who once had ambition finds his hunger replaced with laziness. The fire that once drove him to build, to fight, to achieve, is drowned under the flood of comfort. He convinces himself he is living, when in truth, he is merely existing, drifting from one indulgence to the next. Huxley understood this psychological trap. You do not need chains to enslave men. Give them constant access to pleasure, and they will put the shackles on themselves. Death of desire, the Stoics' path to cold clarity. This is not a guide. This is not self-help. This is war. Kill the need. Master the mind. They will even defend those shackles, calling them freedom and rights, not realizing that their supposed liberty is the very reason their willpower has vanished. Picture a lion in the wild, sharp, alert, unrelenting. Now picture that same lion kept in a cage, fed daily, safe from struggle. His roar softens, his claws dull. He forgets how to hunt, how to fight, how to survive. And when the cage door opens, he doesn't escape. He stays, because captivity has become more comfortable than freedom. That is what pleasure does to men. It builds invisible cages around them. It tells them that life should be easy, that struggle is unnecessary, that pain is outdated. And once they believe that lie, they are finished. The tragedy of pleasure is that it does not merely weaken, it erases. Men who live for indulgence become forgettable. No one remembers the drunkard who wasted his days at the tavern. No one honors the man who spent his years chasing lust without purpose. History erases the pleasure-bound because they built nothing that lasted. Their legacy is nothing more than empty bottles, wasted potential, and a name that fades with their death. The world only remembers those who resisted, who endured, who used their appetites as fuel rather than shackles. This is the seduction of pleasure, deceptive, slow, and silent. It does not destroy you with one blow, but with 1,000 small cuts. Every indulgence without restraint is another piece of your greatness carved away, until one day you wake up and realize you are no longer a man with ambition, but a hollow shell who once dreamed of being great. And by then, it is too late. Pleasure has already claimed you. The weakening effect. How pleasure corrupts masculine power. Discipline is the furnace where masculinity is forged. Without it, a man collapses into softness. Pleasure is the acid that eats away at that furnace, corroding the steel of your character until nothing but rust remains. The truth is simple. Discipline makes you rare, but indulgence makes you common. The disciplined man walks with an aura of power. The pleasure-bound man blends into the crowd, stripped of any distinction. Huxley's genius was in seeing that the world would not need to destroy men violently. It only had to make them forget themselves through comfort. Look at the men who built empires, who conquered, who ruled. None of them were slaves to pleasure. Caesar didn't spend his nights numbed by trivial indulgence. He used every moment to sharpen his ambition, to craft his legend. Alexander wasn't remembered because he chased comfort. He is remembered because he embraced struggle and carried the weight of conquest at an age when most men today are still lost in distraction. Contrast that with the modern man who cannot even fast from his own desires for a single day. You're not lazy, you're hijacked. Every scroll designed to keep you docile, addicted, and distracted. Dopamine warfare, reclaiming the mind. This isn't just about quitting porn or deleting apps. This is about taking back command of your nervous system, your focus, your fire. He is conquered not by armies, but by cravings. He is subdued not by rulers, but by the algorithm that knows exactly which pleasure to dangle before him next. The man who gives himself over to indulgence becomes predictable. He will always move toward the path of least resistance. He will always choose the easy meal, the cheap thrill, the effortless high. And what is predictable becomes controllable. This is the brilliance of control by pleasure. It does not force men, it guides them like cattle. Feed their desires, and you no longer need to command them. They will command themselves. Huxley saw this, that the man who cannot resist his own appetite does not need a master. He already has one, his cravings. And here lies the reason why men addicted to pleasure are forgotten. They have nothing worth remembering. Their lives become a cycle of consumption with no creation. They pass through this world like ghosts, leaving behind no monument, no wisdom, no story that outlives them. History has no room for men who live for pleasure. It records only those who transcended it. The weak fade into obscurity, while the strong carve their names into eternity. Indulgence not only drains ambition, it kills respect. A man who cannot master himself loses the respect of others. You may fool people with charisma, with a smile, with surface charm, but the aura of weakness eventually reveals itself. People can sense when a man is ruled by his urges. They smell it in his presence. He becomes forgettable, interchangeable, replaceable. And nothing kills legacy faster than being replaceable. Pleasure seduces men into thinking they are living, but in reality, they are dissolving. Their sharpness fades, their willpower evaporates, and soon they are nothing but soft shells of who they could have been. And when they die, they are buried not just in the ground, but in the abyss of irrelevance. That is the true cost of indulgence, not just weakness, but invisibility. The path beyond pleasure. Legacy. Through struggle. Huxley's warning was never just about society, it was about the soul of a man. He was not telling you that governments would enslave you with force, but that you would enslave yourself through indulgence. The real battlefield isn't outside, it's within. And the war is not fought with weapons, but with appetites. If you fail to master pleasure, pleasure will master you. That is the prophecy, and most men have already surrendered. But the man who resists, he becomes dangerous. pain, struggle, and hardship are not curses. They are weapons. They are the very crucibles that separate the eternal from the disposable. While others drown in ease, the man who embraces discomfort grows unbreakable. He fasts while they feast. He disciplines his body while they decay. He reads while they scroll. He builds while they consume. And because of this, he becomes a different breed of man. His presence carries weight. His name gains gravity. His legacy grows while theirs fades into dust. Pleasure is fleeting. It vanishes the moment you taste it. But struggle leaves a mark. Struggle brands itself into your memory, into your character, into the history of everyone who witnesses it. Men do not admire you for how comfortable you made yourself. They admire you for what you endured, for what you resisted, for what you built in spite of the fire pressing against you. That is what echoes through time. The pleasure chaser disappears. The struggle bearer becomes immortal. Understand this. To reject pleasure is not to reject life. It is to choose a higher form of it. When you deny yourself the easy path, you unlock the path of the extraordinary. When you starve your lesser appetites, your greater appetite for victory, for conquest, for legacy, awakens. Every act of restraint is a declaration of war against weakness. Every refusal to bow to desire is another brick in the monument of your name. Men today believe they are living when they binge, when they indulge, when they consume. But that is not life. That is sedation. Life is found in the climb, in the resistance, in the sharpening of your will against the stone of hardship. The man who turns away from Huxley's prophecy, who refuses to be sedated, who embraces the pain others flee from, he becomes unforgettable. He becomes the rare man who survives not just in flesh, but in memory. And that is the choice before every man, to dissolve into the sea of the forgettable, or to carve his name into eternity through struggle. Pleasure makes you weak. Pleasure makes you replaceable. But struggle makes you eternal. Thus remember, we are Indisceptor. Becoming Indisceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. Welcome to the Indisceptor Archive, where the undeceived rise. No ads, no distractions, just pure, uninterrupted power. As a crusader of the archive, you gain infinite access to every video, every truth, every strategy, without censorship, delay, or interruption. New drops daily, delivered to you before the world sees them. Raw, unfiltered, elite. Indeceptions.com.